Hello, and welcome back to the channel, everyone. So glad you're here. On this channel, we cut past fluff, we cut past sensationalism, we get right to the nitty gritty, and that's what we are doing tonight. I have a question for you, though. Do I look tired? I feel tired. I am a sleepy crime fighter. But you know what? We are going to dig right in. No, we're not going to dig right in. We got to do an intro. I'm off my game, guys. I'm off my game because I'm a sleepy boy. Let's do a quick intro to this case. We are talking about the case of Judge Kevin Mullins, 54-year-old district court judge in Letcher County, Kentucky. There he was, minding his business. I don't know if he was minding his business, but his friend, former bailiff and county sheriff, comes into his office and shoots him dead. And on camera. Like we're watching it right here. Shoots him dead. So this case is not a whodunit. It's a why you done it. Sheriff Mickey Steins, who was arrested later. I mean, he didn't really run or anything. He just, gave up, put his gun down. I think he walked outside, out of the courthouse. Then he walked back in, put his gun down, kind of just gave up. But why? Why did this man shoot and kill this man? A man that he worked with for years. This is a small place. This is, again, Letcher County, Kentucky. It is small. And everybody knows each other. These guys definitely knew each other. Well, it turns out that it might be related to something else that was happening in the county, and it had to do with Mickey Stein's deputy, a guy named Ben Fields. This is an old picture of Ben Fields. This is a more recent picture of Ben Fields. That is on the offender registry website in the Commonwealth of Kentucky because he was found guilty of, he pleaded guilty to it, and convicted of the giant R word, 4 letters, having to do with SA. You guys know what I'm talking about. YouTube is funny this way. Anyway, just prior, like within a few days, 3 days, of Mickey Steins shooting Kevin Mullins, this one, he was deposed in a federal civil lawsuit, and he was a co-defendant with Mr. Fields. Okay, so for the last 2 live streams, we have gone over the oh man, my buttons are all messed up. Give me just a second. We went over the transcript of the deposition of Mickey Steins. Tonight, we're going over the transcript of the deposition of Ben Fields. Now, I just want to give you guys a heads up. If you're patrons of mine over on Patreon, I have put the documents, the deposition there. I have also included the indictment that Mr. Fields was indicted on before his guilty plea. So you can see all the counts. Okay? All right. So, because this deposition is 214 pages long, I have gone through and I have read it. We're going to do the first half today. Okay? And so we're not going to have to go through everything. There are just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 areas that I think that we should just hone in on. Okay. But let's just see. The deposition was September 11th of last year. So 8 days before Judge Mullins was shot and killed by Mickey Steins. And remember, in Mickey Steins' deposition, he mentions Ben Fields' deposition. He was able to read the deposition. All right. It was done at the law office of Ned Pillersdorf, and I believe, let's go back here, on behalf of the plaintiff was Bethany Baxter, who is a partner there at Pillersdorf Law. On behalf of the defendants are the Honorable John Kelly, Honorable Jonathan Shaw, and via Zoom, the Honorable Don Jones. Also present via Zoom are Mickey Steins and Sabrina Adkins. Now, Sabrina Adkins is one of two plaintiffs. The second plaintiff is Jennifer Hill. Sadly, Jennifer Hill passed away. And she passed, according to Mr. Pillersdorf, of a drug overdose. Let's not forget here, guys, that, well, I'm kind of assuming that you already know about the case. If you don't, I'm sorry. I'll try to be a little more specific. The allegation against Ben Fields is that as the guy in the county that was in charge of house arrest, he was the guy that put GPS monitors on to people's ankles, right? For their house arrest. He was asking them for sexual favors, some of these female inmates for sexual favors, in order to be treated favorably by him when it came to the ankle monitor. And by favorably, I mean he wouldn't put it on him. And according to Sabrina and Jennifer Adkins Jennifer Hill, in a proffer that was recorded by the Kentucky Attorney General's office investigator, it was known in the jail that you could do this. Okay? So this is the crux of the civil rights lawsuit here, is that these women are saying he essayed us in his capacity as the ankle monitor guy. Okay? All right. So Sabrina and Mickey Steins are present by Zoom. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff here. Okay, the first part I want to skip to is page 10. So anytime where it says Q, that is Ms. Baxter from Ned Pillersdorf's office asking the questions. Anytime there's an A, that is the answer by the defendant, Mr. Fields. Let us start at line 6. She says, "Who is paying for your attorney in this case, if you know?" He answers, "I'm not entirely sure. I believe KACO, maybe." "Okay, have you paid anything out of your pocket?" Mr. Kelly, the attorney, "Objection as to any kind of relationship that he has with the attorneys." Ms. Baxter, "I think," let's see, what does she say? She says, "I think whether or not that you have paid directly your attorneys is fair game." Mr. Kelly says, "I disagree." Ms. Baxter says, "So are you instructing him not to answer?" Mr. Kelly, "That is correct." "Okay, have you received any kind of reservation of rights letter from KATO?" asks Ms. Kelly. KATO, I can't remember what it is. I think it gets to it. Okay, so she asks, "Okay, have you received any kind of reservation of rights letter from KATO?" Mr. Kelly, "Note an objection. You can ask him if he got a letter." Ms. Baxter, "That is what I asked him." He answers, "I am not sure." Okay, as you sit here today, you are not sure whether KACO might be representing you pursuant to a reservation of rights. Is that what I understand? Mr. Kelly, "Note an objection. If you want to hear from me, I will gladly tell you." Ms. Baxter, "No, I'm interested in hearing from Mr. Fields." So she repeats the question. "If you know, is KACO representing you pursuant to any reservation of rights?" Mr. Kelly, "And likewise, if you don't know, you can answer accordingly." He says, "I don't know." I want to look this up real quick. What is KACO in Kentucky, let's say, law enforcement? The Kentucky Association of Counties is what KACO is. They provide law enforcement resources and training, law enforcement policies and procedures, and so forth. Yeah, they represent, they help all sorts of county employees, not just law enforcement. Okay, so that's number one. Mr. Fields does not know who is paying for his attorneys. At least that's what he says. He says he doesn't know who's paying for his attorneys. I'm curious what you guys have to say. Remember, oh, you know what I didn't do? You know what? Let's look at Judge Mullins. I did not get this ready. Give me a second. I must have accidentally closed it. My system that shows your comments. You put GF in your comment if you want me to see the comment and reply to it here in the live stream. I reply to most of them. Let's see. We need to go here, and I need to pop out the chat. You guys are like, dude, how about being a little professional, Gavin? Okay, there we go. All right. So Mooney, for example, says, how does one not know who is paying for their representation? Exactly. Hey, Donna, welcome to Fanatic. Glad that you joined. Thank you very much for doing that. All right. So, yeah, please put GF in your comment if you'd like me to see your comment, okay? All right. Let's go back over here to Acrobat, and we're going to go to page 22, line 4. Okay. Ms. Baxter asks, okay, and think that you said earlier that is where you met Angie Fields, correct? Angie Fields. Yes. Okay, and what part of the county is she from? When I met her? Yeah. She was living in the Macon area. Do you recall when she started working at the jail? So the line of questioning before this was he was working at the jail. He meets his future wife. He says, I believe it was in 2009. Okay, so soon after that you started. Yeah. And I saw in the records that you had acknowledged that you have had sexual contact with Angie Fields at the Letcher County Jail. Do you recall that response to a polygraph report? Remember, we talked about this in the deposition of Mickey Fields. And this, by the way, this isn't just going to salaciousness. This is going to the pervasiveness of this kind of stuff that is allowable, with a wink and a nod in Letcher County government and law enforcement. That's why she's bringing this kind of stuff up, right? So that's why I thought it was important to talk about it here. So he answers, it was in the courthouse. So she says, so you had a sexual contact with Angie Mullins, who is now your wife, in the courthouse. He says, not Angie Mullins. Oh, I'm sorry, Angie Fields. Yes. I don't know where I got Angie Mullins from. Okay. Explain to me where that sexual contact took place. In I guess it would be the first floor bathroom. Oh, he says, I guess it would be the first floor bathroom. She asks, first floor of the jail? Of the courthouse. Okay, is that like the public bathroom? Yes. And when would that have been? Like what year? 2011, maybe the end of 2010? How many times did that occur? Just a couple. So 2? Yes. And was that while you guys were on duty? No. Okay, so what would have been doing in the public bathroom of the courthouse when you weren't on duty? He says it was between shifts, getting off duty. We worked the same shift. She asks, so it was before your shift or after your shift? I can't remember. And so would that have been before you two got married or after you got married? Before. Would that have been during normal business hours for the courthouse, or would it have been after hours? He says after hours. Okay, did you ever have any sexual contact with Angie in the judge's chambers? No. By the way, this part is important, guys, okay? She goes, I I think that I heard you say earlier that part of your job as a deputy jailer was to take inmates from the jail up into the courthouse. And I guess that was for court hearings? Yes. Did you ever take any female detainees? This is important. This is when she starts asking specific questions about others. Did you ever take any female detainees at the Letcher County Jail into the courthouse after hours? Answer, no. You never took any female detainees from the Letcher County Jail into this public bathroom. Is that your testimony? Correct. What about the judge's chambers? Same question, but judge's chambers. And then in comes Mr. Kelly, the attorney. Mr. Kelly says, please realize that she is going pretty far, I think that means afield, in her questioning. And remember our conversation concerning the possibility of criminal charges arising from it and your rights to invoke the Fifth Amendment. I will leave it to your discretion. He's like, dude, Fifth Amendment rights. She is asking about some things. Now, Mr. Kelly is his attorney. Mr. Kelly likely is aware of all the criminal activity, or at least all the stuff that Ben Fields would admit to him that Mr. Fields did during this time, right? So he's like, hey, this could lead to criminal prosecution. If I were you, maybe plead the fifth is kind of what I'm reading here, right? So after that, Ben Fields goes, could you repeat the question? Sure. Have you ever taken any female detainees from the Letcher County Jail up into the judge's chambers at the courthouse? He answers, during hours or after hours? Question, at any time. He answers, no. Guys, this right here, I think that's a lie. Because he's seeking a qualification during hours or after hours. As in, inside him, he knows that there is, I mean, what are you asking? Because could be a different answer depending on what you're asking there, right? When? And she says at any time. And he's like, I better deny it. No. I think that is probably a lie. Okay. She continues, and I think I'm going to go, to page 28. Okay. Have you ever been alone with any female detainee from the Letcher County Jail inside the courthouse portion of the building? He goes, could you be more specific? Have you ever been alone with a female detainee from the Letcher County Jail in the courthouse? During a time period when no one else was present. No. Now, that one, guys, that one sticks out to me too, because she qualified it with nobody else present, and he says no. I think that is either a lie, or he's like, no, there were other people present. There were other people present, so no. Very interesting line of questioning. Okay. You have an understanding of where there are and where there are not cameras within the courthouse. Is that correct? That's what she's asking. Mr. Kelly says, are you including the jail in the courthouse? She says, I'm talking about the courthouse portion of the building. Mr. Fields answers, at one time, I would know. Okay. And what would that time period have been? He says, while I worked there. And when you say while you worked there, are you referencing the time when you were working as a deputy sheriff? Yes. Okay, so based on that time period and your understanding, what were the places where there were no cameras within the courthouse? He says, where there were no cameras? She says, uh-huh. He goes, let's see. It would be the jury room, the judge's chambers, the secretary's office. Okay. Do you want, and she goes, if you are aware of other places, I would like for you to include those in your response. He answers, the bathrooms, Okay, makes sense. Private offices. While you were working for the Letcher County Jail at any time during the period from 2008 to 2018, was there ever any complaints against you that you were aware of from inmates? He goes, can you specify complaints? This part I understand, because as a jailer, you would have lots of complaints by inmates. She says, any complaints about mistreatment? Mr. Kelly, for ones that are made? And she says, just any complaints whatsoever. Mr. Kelly says, inmates complain all of the time. Ms. Baxter says he can answer for himself, and if he wants clarification, he can get it. Well, says Mr. Kelly, I have the right to have clarification. I want to make sure that we are all both talking about the same thing. I would like to know what you mean by complaints. Ms. Baxter says, you can object to form. Mr. Kelly says, I just did. I don't think that he did. I don't read an objection anywhere, but okay. He's getting a little feisty. I do love good lawyering, so he's doing what he's supposed to do. Okay. Then Mr. Fields chimes in and goes, I would like clarification. Question, any complaints? Answer, any complaints at all? Ms. Baxter, any complaints from inmates at the Letcher County Jail that you are mistreating them? Answer, yes. Where am I supposed to go on this one? Yeah, all the way almost to the end. Question, okay, explain to me what those complaints would have been. Didn't give them extra time during visits, wouldn't go against the jail's policy to favor them to give them extra stuff or special treatment. She says, okay, I guess the jail has some policies about inmates getting preferential treatment. And I'm going to stop it there because we're going to get into preferential treatment, guys. We're going to get into preferential treatment. All right, let's see if you guys have anything to add to this. Let's go to Becca. Becca says that's a sassy lawyer. Yeah, I want a sassy lawyer. Royal Order of the Frank. You know how I feel about this, Frank. When she asked if anyone else present, he could have interpreted that as being in the building or in the same room or same floor, etc. Yeah, he could have. Definitely. Robin Bernardi says, Gavin, these folks are deliberately obtuse. Yeah, they sure are. Leanne, is it Go? I don't know how to pronounce your name, Leanne. I'm sorry. Says, so Ben read Sabrina's deposition and Mickey read Ben's. Yeah, I think that like Mickey and Sabrina were at Ben's deposition. They did it by Zoom. They were there. And I know Sabrina was at Mickey's. Beach Fairy says, your shirt looks like a cross between Lord of the Rings and Fiddler on the Roof. What is it? This is a limited edition. I don't know how to do this. Limited edition Sean Diddy Combs Diddler on the Roof. It was a suggestion by one of my viewers while we were talking about Sean Combs. So yes, Diddler on the Roof. I wear it from time to time. I love it. Let's see. Anything else, you guys? Patty Olson says, this is getting dicey. I mean, spicy. Yeah, it is. It is. Okay. Let's hop on over to back over here. All right. And I want to go to page 32 now. 32, starting at line 12. Here we go. This is Ms. Baxter. Okay, I think you referenced earlier amount of fairness amongst, and sometimes inmates would want special privileges. Were some of those privileges related to visitation? Is that what I understood? He says yes. Did other privileges relate to food, getting food brought in from outside or something? He said mainly from wanting extra trays, about food-related stuff. Okay, and you were an inmate at the Letcher County Jail for 6 months. Is that correct? Yes. Remember, he was an inmate because he pleaded guilty to the 4-letter R word and a couple of other smaller offenses, and only did 6 months while his wife was jailer, as I understand it. Okay. So yes, I was an inmate for 6 months at the jail. Okay. Did you get any special privileges while you were an inmate there? He says, I was a trustee. What does that mean? Guys, you need to buckle in for this, okay? This just kills me. He said, I was allowed to come and go in my cell as all other trustees are. How many trustees are there? At the time, counting myself, there was 8. 8 trustees. And how many inmates were there total during that 6-month time period approximately? He said, I would say between 50 and 70. Let me go on a tangent here for a second. The county jail in the county in which I live, and the counties are about the same size. My county and Letcher County, about the same size. They're rural and they're small. I mean, the town I live in is like 6,000 people. It's not much at all. And we're the biggest town in the county. They call it a city. Anyway, we have a jail with enough beds for like 142 people, and they're always overflowing. We have a real problem in Western Pennsylvania with jailing people. In fact, per capita, this county is the most jaily county in the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So I mean, I know that 50 to 70 people in jail is a lot, but I was actually happy to hear that it was only 50 to 70 and not like 150 to 200. But anyway, he's a trustee in this jail of like 70 people. Okay, Ms. Baxter continues, line 16. Okay, so how does one earn the position of trustee? He says, being trusted. Entrusted in whose eyes? He says, I guess whoever is working, jailers. And that kills me because he was once a jailer. I guess he knows. It's not a guess. Ms. Baxter goes, okay, so whoever the deputy is, does it change from shift to shift who the trustees are? No, each shift, I guess, can pick if they need a trustee, they can bring one out. And what do those trustees get to do? He says, work, sweep, mop, do the laundry, cook. She asks, do you get food brought in? Fast food brought in for you? He says churches would bring food and guards would buy pizza and bring it in. Would only trustees get to share in that pizza? He says most often. Sometimes the jail bought pizza or food for the whole jail. But other times only the trustees got to have that catered food, correct? He says if there was extra that the guards bought. Question, and did you know any of those guards from having worked as deputy jailer previously? He says a few, 3 or 4. What were their names? Michael Billiter. Who else? Alina Hensley, Brian Sloan, Amanda Sexton. Anybody else? Justin Collier. I believe that is the only ones that I knew when I worked there. And would have been the assistant chief deputy and supervisor of those 5 people you just named? I think she's asking, and would you have been their supervisor? And he said, not all of them. Which ones of those did you previously supervise? And he says, I believe Justin Collier, Mikey Billiter, and Amanda Sexton. Did Angie Fields ever have supervisory role within the Letcher County Jail? Yes. Did she have the title of assistant chief deputy? He said, I don't think that was her title. I think she was a lieutenant. Was that even higher than assistant chief deputy? I don't know. He knows, guys. He knows. Where am I going? I am going to... Yeah, I've got a couple more pages. Do, do you know at the time when Angie Fields, his wife, was working as a lieutenant for the jail, did she supervise any of those people that you just named? He says possibly. Any other special privileges that you had by virtue of being a trustee? He says if there was leftover food after we served, we could get a little extra. Anything else? No. Were you ever allowed to leave the jail? And he said, we would take the trash out to the Sally Port. She asked, where's the Sally Port? It's connected to the jail. Okay, did you ever go past the Sally Port? Yes. So this guy had so many special privileges while he was in that jail for 6 months. What occasion did you go past the Sally Port while you were in jail? He said whenever they would bring the food delivery for the jail, we would have to go out in front of the lobby, load it in the carts, and bring it back in. And who is they? The trustees. And she goes, but who would be bringing the food? You said when they bring the food. Who is they? He says the company that they ordered the food off of to be cooked and served. Okay. So the trustees have the privileges of going outside beyond the Sally Port to get that food? Yes. Where am I going? Line 8. Okay. Were you made a trustee on the first day that you checked in at the jail, or did it take some time to become a trustee? He said it was probably about a week. This guy was convicted of the R word, everybody, as in SA. That's what he was convicted of. He did 6 months in jail where his wife was a lieutenant, where he had previously worked as like in a supervisory role. And within the week that he got in jail, he was made a trustee and was able to go outside the jail. Had all these special privileges, could come and go. Doesn't seem like much of a punishment, man. Does not seem like a punishment at all. All right, let's see what you guys are saying here. Demon Hugger's friend, Todd. Gavin, so Fields is the I don't know guy, unlike the I don't recall guy. Yes, I don't recall guy was Mickey Steins. 100%. Demon Hugger. Well, if that's not a conflict of interest. Yep. Tanya thinks my shirt is amazing. Guys, I do want to put merch on the website if you guys want this sort of stuff, and I'm working on it. I'm getting there. Yes, I think you guys all like the shirt. Pretty great indeed. Okay. Yaya Kelly cannot believe this. Robin says, I'm needing to hit the dispensary just to remain calm during this clown show. Okay, well, as long as it's legal where you live, Robin Bernardi, I would not get in the way of your legal rights. Though I do not condone it myself. But you do you. Okay. Here we go. Let's go back over here, and where I want to go next is page 53. So, going down to 53. 53, line 1, going to the next page, line 6. Okay. All right. So, Ms. Baxter is asking questions about, now we're talking about when he became deputy sheriff and when he became the bailiff and the guy that did the ankle monitors. Ms. Baxter asks, okay, aside from the training that you received from Mickey Steins related to EKCS, that's Eastern Kentucky Correction Services, they're the ankle monitor company, did you receive any other type of training? He goes, not that I can think of. Do you recall any employment policies or handbook or anything of that nature related to EKCS? I can't remember. Again. So all of the training that you received was training that you got from Mickey Steins, correct? Yes. And after that, I met Patty. She showed me when we got the new GPS bracelets, she showed me how to hook those up. Okay. And that happened sometime after you started working for EKCS? Correct. Or correct? He says yes. Aside from that training related to the GPS bracelets, did you receive any other training from Patty Stockham? Not that I can think of. To your knowledge, were there any other employees that you worked with at EKCS beyond Patty Stockham? No. So the reason that I brought this up is there just wasn't a lot of training. This was an old boys club. This was like a fraternity. It was like a locker room. They had they acted. Mickey Steins called it childishly. They were a rambunctious bunch of horny dudes, including having sex with his girlfriend in the courthouse. And there was no training that would rein that kind of stuff in with anybody working in the courthouse. And I think that is the point that Ms. Baxter is getting at. Okay, let's skip down to 61. Remember, you guys, if you're patrons, you can just log into Patreon and you can get this whole thing. Okay, line 11. Ms. Baxter, so part of your job as the court security officer was to transport inmates. Yes. Okay, how often would you do that? He said, pretty often. I would say monthly. Okay, help me understand sort of what all your duties were as court security officer. He said, it was to be the bailiff in the courtroom, get prisoners from the jail and bring them up to court and take them down, transport prisoners from other jails back to Letcher County, or serve subpoenas, summons, and civil papers. Anything else? Not that I can think of. Were you paid by the hour for your work for the sheriff's department or salary? He said by the hour. Okay, so you would turn in those hours to the sheriff's department? Yes. Were there sort of set hours per day? Did you always work 8 to 5, or how did that work? He answers, I can't think of the actual hours. It was 8 hours a day. 8 hours a day. His answer, 8 to 4, 8 to 4:30, something like that. 8:30 to 4:30 maybe. I can't remember. And would you ever perform services for EKCS during that time period when you were working for the sheriff's department? He says, if somebody that was on house arrest was in court or a hearing and didn't get off of house arrest, they would go ahead and pay me their weekly payment before they left, or if somebody got off. I would go ahead and cut the bracelet off of them before they left. Where am I going? I'm going to page 68. Okay, and that would just be in the district courtroom? Yes. Okay, was it more often Judge Mullins who would put people on house arrest, or would that be more of a Judge Kraft decision? Both. It just depended where they had a case out of. Okay, but you would handle the home incarceration duties for both district and circuit court, even though you were the bailiff for district court, correct? Yes. You had a sheriff's department uniform, correct? Yes. Okay, did you have a badge? Yes. Did you carry a gun? Yes. Okay, and did you wear that uniform badge and did you carry that gun during time periods when you were performing services for East Kentucky Correctional Solutions? Yes. And were you aware of any policies with the sheriff's department about when you were or were not supposed to use that sheriff's department property that I just identified? He answers, not that I know of. Okay, so let's start when you were working for the jail. Did you have any special access? And by that I mean keys. Guys, this is important. I mean keys or key cards that gave you access to the courthouse portion of the building. He asks, while I was at the jail? Correct. No, not that I know of. Okay, so when you were working for the jail, if you were accessing the courthouse portion of the building, were you able to access that because the door was unlocked? He said, could you rephrase that maybe? Yeah. While you were working at the jail or working for the jail, if you were going up into the courthouse for any reason, were those doors unlocked? Is that how you gained access? He said, the jail is inside of the courthouse perimeter. She says, but in my mind, they're sort of separate somewhat. I would think there is some locked doors between the jail and the district courtroom, for example, at least during certain periods of the day. He answers, yes. While you were working for the jail, if you were trying to get from the jail to the district court courtroom, did you have any special key or key card that let you gain access to that off hours? He said, off hours, no. So you couldn't gain access to that while you were working for the jail off hours. He said, not to the courtrooms. Right, but to the general hallway? Yes. And where the bathrooms were? Yes. So he's being evasive, right? No, I didn't have that. Well, but yeah, I did. Right? And then when you became a court security officer, were you given some sort of special access, a key card that allowed you to access more portions of the courthouse? He said, yes. And who gave you that key card or key? He said, I guess the sheriff's office did. The key card came from ALC, I believe, from the clerk's office. And what did that key card give you access to? He said, the side door into the courtroom, into the courthouse. Now, Elizabeth Jones from Hillbilly Crime, you guys remember Elizabeth because she's rad, from Hillbilly Crime, she talked about when Mickey Steins did the deed, he walked out the side door of the court. It was right next to the judge's chambers. Then he came back in and, gave himself up, right? So he's saying, I had access to the side door into the courtroom, into the courthouse. Side door of the courthouse. She goes, so if I'm looking at the front of the Letcher County Courthouse, let's bring this up. Here's the front of the Letcher County Courthouse. The jail is over on the left side, correct? And he said, it is under the entire building. It is the whole basement. Okay, but the access door is on the left, right? He says, yes. And you can kind of just see that behind the cars down at the back of the building there. That's the entrance. He says, yes, the lobby would be on the left. So she asks, okay, when you reference the side door into the courthouse, is that on the right side of the building or where is that door? And he says on the left. So I think we can see that. You see that black car that is in front there? It looks like a Ford Mustang to me, but I can't tell. It's so small. There is a door right behind that on the side of the building. That goes into an area that then goes directly into the judge's chamber, according to Elizabeth Jones. So that's the door that they're talking about here. And she says, so it's over on the same jail side? Yes. But a different door from the jail entrance door? Yes. Okay, and did that key card give you access to Judge Mullins' chambers? He goes, from the side door, if he left his door unlocked, I would have access to it. But if he had locked it, I would not. So she goes, did he regularly leave his chamber's door unlocked? What would be regular? I don't know. Did you ever go into the courthouse and find his chamber door locked? We will start there. He says, did I ever find it locked? Correct. Yes. So that means if he found that the door was locked, he would have attempted to get in, right? Why would he go into a judge's chamber? Okay. Line 17. Have you ever been in Judge Mullins' chambers without Judge Mullins? Yes. Okay, and on those occasions when you were there and he was not there, did he give a key to get into his chambers? Or did you happen to find it unlocked? He said it would have been unlocked. Did he leave it unlocked for you? I mean, the implication there, right? And his answer is, where am I going to? His answer is, I wouldn't imagine just to be leaving it unlocked. Okay, did he leave it unlocked for you? I wouldn't imagine just to be leaving it unlocked. Okay. So he never told you that I'm going to leave the door unlocked for you? No. All right. How much time have we got? We got some time. Let's go to your comments here. Let's see what you guys have to say. Oh, gross. Autumn. Gross. Tumbleweeds, Autumn? Tumbleweeds? Come on. Autumn, that is so gross. Oh my goodness. Okay, Beach Fairy. Gavin, be interesting to know which higher ups, if any, visited Ben in jail in those 6 months. Well, that's a great line of thought, Beach Fairy. Mickey, maybe? I really want to know which proverbial side he was on. Yeah, that is a great question, Beach Fairy. Lindsay Hendricks says, Gavin, I think it's important context to note the Letcher County Jail and the courthouse where Judge Mullins was killed and where Fields would assault these women are in the same building, different doors. Yes, that is correct. In looking at the courthouse, the main courthouse was on the first floor. I think that I think that there were other offices and courthouses on the second floor, drug court and so forth. In the basement was the jail. All the same place. Which makes it probably easier for people up to nefarious deeds to be able to pull them off. Leanne says, I heard his wife visited him in his cell. I have heard that. Robin Bernardi, very legal here. Good. All right. Good. Let's see. Robin says, Autumn, the great GF sees all. Well, it was right there when I pulled up my window that has the chat. It was right there. The tumbleweeds killing me. Autumn, yes, yeah. That is funny. Okay, God's Secretary says, Gavin, I wonder if the trustee advantage allowed him private time with his wife. I think so. All right, I think question of records. Oh yeah, this is a great, it doesn't have my name on it, but it's great. LS says administrative office of the court should have records for each time there's use of the key card and entry into the courthouse. Indeed. In fact, they probably have that. I mean, when I got the Attorney General's file, it came with, tens of thousands of pages of files. And then I recently got, not only did I get the indictment, but I actually got some of the text messages between Mr. Fields and Ms. Adkins, and they were attached as an exhibit by the defense to show that Sabrina Adkins was like engaging Mr. Fields into sexual rendezvous. Of course, that doesn't matter because he had legal authority over her. It was inappropriate, and it was SA. She can't legally consent to that, right? She can't do that. Lindsay Hendricks, right, but that adds to the scheme, in my opinion. Fields threatening the women with jail time unless they comply with his demands. Threatens the judge, is aware of it too, etc. Yeah. All right. We've got a couple other spots that I want to go over here. Where am I going? I'm going to page 72. Okay, page 72, starting on line 15. We're going to go to 79, all the way through 79. Okay. Give me a second. All right, Ms. Baxter says, let's talk a little bit about East Kentucky Correctional Solutions. You testified previously that some of the work you might have done was during the time period when you were working as bailiff, and that would have been maybe collecting some money from a criminal defendant or cutting a bracelet if need be. Help me understand, aside from those specific duties, what were your other duties with East Kentucky Correctional Solutions? He said to hook people up on house arrest. Where would that occur? He said at the courthouse. Question, at what time? Mr. Shaw interjects, for the record, were these disclosed or produced to opposing counsel at any time after that you received them by subpoena from AG? Ms. Baxter says yes. Well, she says yeah. Okay, so you would hook people up on house arrest that was at the courthouse. Would that have been during the time period when you were working as a bailiff? What do you mean? Yeah, I want to be more specific. So during that time period, that 8 hours a day that you were working as bailiff, would you also have been hooking folks up on house arrest during that time period? He said, I did sometime on my lunch. Any other time? Occasionally on days when there wasn't no court. If the judge was done, I would hook people up during that time. Okay, did you always hook folks up on house arrest at the courthouse? He said, either at the courthouse or in the lobby at the jail. Okay, and when you were hooking folks up on house arrest, would you be wearing your deputy sheriff's uniform? You would be wearing your deputy sheriff's uniform, correct? He said, it depends on when it was. Well, the times that you were at the courthouse would have been wearing your uniform. If I hooked them up after that I got off work, I would get done and go straight down and hook them up. So you're saying that you would change. You're saying? No, I wouldn't change. I would stop and take my gun belt off and lock it up in my cruiser. Okay. More often than not, you would be wearing your sheriff's department uniform while you were hooking folks up on house arrest, correct? Ooh, I just had a gross thought. Taking off his like giant gun belt and everything would make it more convenient for the deeds. Right? Gross. Ew. Very gross. Okay. All right. So more often than not, you'd be wearing your sheriff's department uniform while you were hooking folks up on house arrest, correct? He said, if they got out after that I worked, days that, if it was somebody that came in on a weekend and was bonding out over the weekend, I would wear my regular clothes and drive my truck out to the jail and hook them up. Okay. But if it was somebody that got a bond set through the day, a business day, instead of making them wait for me to run home, change, and come back, I would just go ahead and hook them up. She asked, isn't it true that more often than not, the hookups that you did would have been through the weekday when you were wearing your uniform and not on the weekends? Is that accurate? He says, I would say that I hooked more up through the week. Okay, that is what I was trying to ask. And so you talked about hookups. What were the other jobs aside from hooking folks up? What would happen next? He said, I would collect their fees. What page did I say I was going to? 79. Okay. Would you go out to the location, the house that I would assume or apartment where someone was living? Would you actually go out and do sort of a house visit? He says, if we had an issue, what would be kind of issue and prompted you to go out there? Tampering with their bracelet, to go out and do a visual check of their bracelet. Okay, so that would be sometime after they had already been hooked up? Yes. Okay, and when you would go out to do those visual checks, would you drive your sheriff's department car? He said, if it was through the week and it was something that I could swing by their residence on my way home or while I was out, I would. Okay, so you talked about hooking, collecting fees. Where and when would you collect the fees? When I hooked them up, the initial fee was paid, and then every Wednesday, they would report in and I would check the bracelet and collect their fees. And they would report into the courthouse? Yes. And to the district courtroom? Yes. And when you were collecting those weekly, would you be wearing your deputy sheriff uniform? If I had worked that day. Okay, I believe that you said earlier that you worked 8 hours a day, full-time job, right? Uh-huh. So did you work 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, or was there a certain day that you didn't work? Monday through Friday. Did people on home incarceration have different conditions as far as what they were or were not allowed to do? Unless it was set forth by the judge bond decision, they had other conditions that people on house arrest have a set of conditions for the house arrest. Would that mean like this person is allowed to work or this one is allowed to go get their dialysis treatment every Tuesday? Was it things like that? Yes, medical was allowed. for everybody. Obviously, working had to be approved by the judge. So in those situations where someone had a special condition, I will call it, what is your job at the the home incarceration officer to make sure they were where they were supposed to be when they were supposed to be? He said, I didn't view the monitoring. Patty would view that and let me know if somebody was out of range, and then I would contact them. Okay, but did Patty rely on you to let her know what sort of conditions were or weren't allowed from the judge? Yes. Do you recall East Kentucky Correctional Solutions ever getting any sort of permit or filling out an application with the Letcher County Sheriff's Department to get your work approved for EKCS? I don't know what that would be. Okay, so is that a no? He says, no, I don't know. Did you ever get permission? And specifically, did you ever fill out a permission form from the Letcher County Sheriff's Office authorizing you to work for East Kentucky Correctional Solutions? No, I don't know what that would be. Okay, were you aware that you were supposed to have filled out some sort of permission to work for EKCS? No. You were paid from East Kentucky Correctional Solutions, not on an hourly basis, but did you receive some sort of percentage of fees collected? Explain to me how you were paid. And he said, I was paid half of the hookup fee for anybody that I hooked and $2 per day per person that I had on, which I think it was $3 a day, but okay. So that's what he was talking about. Those were his responsibilities. We've got one more that I'm going to just skip to and do because it's short. It's starting at the bottom of 93, going to halfway down 94. Okay, isn't it true that Angie Fields would sometimes do some of your tasks for East Kentucky Correctional Solutions for you? He said, when I was gone to in-service training, she collected the money at the lobby of the jail. Did Patty Stockham know that she was doing that for you? Yes. Mr. Kelly, again, objection to form. Go ahead. Did you tell Patty that? He said, I'm sure I did. She said, did you have anyone else in Letcher County perform any of your EKCS duties for you? He said, some people on house arrest would leave their money at the jail with the deputy jailers if I was away for some reason. Anybody in particular? Any deputy jailers in particular? Just whoever was working. So it seemed very casual. Very casual. Not a lot of oversight. That's the way it seems like to me. Let's get one more round of your comments in here. Let me see what you guys got. See if there's any. Oh, Beach Fairy. Also, no evidence on his work clothes. Yeah. Jessica. Oh my goodness. So coarse, but yeah, you're probably right. And I think that's all we got. I think those are the comments that we've got today, guys. So we're going to keep looking at this case. This is a crazy, crazy case, guys. It's absolutely nuts. And I really just want to know, why do you done it, Sheriff Mickey? And I think that we're beginning to see the kind of situation that was happening in Letcher County, Kentucky. Let's see, real quick. God's Secretary says, Jeff, this right here is exactly what happens when you let the fox guard the hen house. That is a very good metaphor. Hey guys, tomorrow we were planning on doing part 2. However, I did see this morning that about a dozen motions were filed by, let me see if I can find the right, were filed by Stephen Stearns in the Matty Soto case. So tomorrow, so I might be pushing some of these videos out into next week because I think there's probably something in the motions that we want to go over. Specifically, I do know that Mr. Stearns, through his lawyers, wants all of his pretrial hearings to not be public. Of course he does, but I don't know. We're going to read those motions. Okay. I'm going to go get them tonight. And we will, we'll probably go over that tomorrow and then get back to the depositions. Lindsay. Let's see. Gavin Plus says, we're reading this deposition, but then imagine the heated deposition Steins had the same week he shot the judge. Yeah. Good comment, Lindsay. All right, so you guys know what our plan is. Real quick, let me just make sure that I've got everything. So our plan, this is what we're doing right now. This will be pushed today, so these two will each also be pushed today, and we'll probably tomorrow be circling back to Maddie Soto. So we've got 3 videos all set for next week. I've also got a couple of potential guests that are going to be joining us. Actually, I know that we have a guest on Monday, so that will push it out a little bit too. Julia Cowley is going to be joining me to talk a little bit about the Ellen Greenberg case on her podcast. They have been going over the case for the last couple of episodes. I think they've got a couple more to show. So Julia will be joining me on Monday. So tomorrow, Maddie, Monday, Ellen, and then back here to Judge Mullins. Okay. If you ever want to reach me, you can do so on gavinfish.com. While you're there, you can read any of the articles that we're posting in the true crime sphere. There are some crazy ones out there, guys, right now. If you click on an article, that will take you directly to CrimeCod, my website. While you're there, you can sign up for the newsletter. Also, don't forget that you can head on over to the fish tank by clicking this little fishy, and that will take you to the fish tank on Facebook, okay? So I think that is it for tonight. Guys, thanks so much for joining me. It's been a fun night. I do enjoy our time together, and I hope that tomorrow you will come back and join me at 7:30 Eastern. With that, I will bid you adieu for the evening. Take care. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.